So a little bit about me. I am the CEO for 3TG Staffing, located here in Atlanta and Decatur. I am a Goldman Sachs ambassador, United Way alumni, Forbes member, a whole bunch of other cool stuff that I love to do. And I've added this one on, of course. And Sarah's office hours, she's the director of Family Business Center for KSU, Kennesaw University. And for me, she's a strategic mentor and just an amazing person. And she loves family business. That's my intro for her. And she does a whole bunch of other cool stuff. Our special guest, Terri King, TKC Advisory, President and CEO, and real estate commercial broker. And she does a whole bunch of couple of things that's really, really cool that we love. We'll let each other we'll let each other brag about each other. And I am excited, Terri, to hear about your family office. And let's go ahead and get started. Tell me a little bit about the company.
Yes. So, hi, everyone. Thank you, Misha, for that wonderful introduction. I am Terri King, founder and CEO of TKC Advisory. We are a full service commercial real estate firm. We also offer commercial roofing for commercial buildings and government contracting. So, we initially started as a single person, me, broker. And then over the years, we added on. I got my broker's license, started hiring family members and non-family members. And then we opened up the brokerage. And then after a few years of seeing what it looks like to help other people lease and sell properties, site acquisitions, and development, everything from warehouse to raw land, skyscrapers, you name it, business acquisitions, all of that good stuff. We said, okay, we want to grow, but how do you grow if we're offering the same services, over and over, step and repeat? So we got into the government space, and we went ahead. We are a woman-owned certified business, economically disadvantaged woman-owned certified business, certified small business. We're working on our diverse business and a minority business enterprise with the Georgia Department of Transportation. But one of our partners here at our firm is certified to work on right-of-way projects such as negotiations, relocations, acquisitions, and appraisals. So we have really worked the full gamut when it comes to commercial real estate. So adding on the exterior, so we put the people inside and we said, okay, well, let's make the buildings outside look nice. And for us, it was such a good fit for us. And then for the government contracting piece, whatever services that align with what we were already doing, we said, okay, that's another way for us to grow. And so offering our services and products in both the private and public sectors. So that's what we do. We're an advisory firm.
I love that, Terry. I love hearing about how you've moved and grown and evolved. I think evolved is really the right word for this because it's not just, oh, the business grew. We went from 1 to 100. You said we're going to touch everything around us. Could you share a little bit more about what that journey looked like? Because for so many family businesses, it makes sense to evolve from a singular family business to this family enterprise. This idea that we're going to do things that are similar but different. And that's especially helpful if you've got multiple family members that each want to do their own aspect of the business. So, what did that look like for you and your business?
Yes. So that looked like plateauing, honestly, Sarah. Because so I mentioned we were thinking about how do we expand, but we've been in business 8 years now, right? And so in 8 years, you hired and fired, you made money, you've lost money, you've learned new skills, and then and grew again. So we had a really good data set to say, hey, if we continue to do and sell the way we've been doing it these last 5 years, we're probably just gonna plateau right here. Like we're always gonna make this much. We're always gonna be able to hire this many people, and there's really no room left for us to go, because as I like to say, and it's true, we were one of the fastest growing commercial real estate firms.
Please mute your
here.
phone. Please
Yes.
mute your phone.
Yes.
Thank you. Not you, Terry.
Oh, did I mute myself? Okay. Listen, I follow instructions. Listen, mute. That's how I get to be the boss, because I am a good listener and, and I give good instructions. Okay. But
Okay.
but yeah, so we had a good data set. So we said, okay, we need to do something else. Really it's just is getting to the bottom of a high mountain, because we have the connections, but we needed to offer a different service. And then it started to look like the staff we had in place not being a good fit all of a sudden. And so we said, well, why is it? Because they're qualified people, they're good people. There aren't really a lot of personality changes or big life events that either the leadership or the staff has had, but it just wasn't a good fit. And the aha moment was, we hired people for where we were at and not where we were going. Mm-hmm. And we had to, and everyone wasn't on board with the new vision, with the rebrand, with the new direction, with the new quotas, with the new call for fresh ideas, right? And that's okay. It just makes us not a good fit for each other anymore. So we went through a series of hiring and firing and being still for a little bit to say, where do we want to go? And we realized we need, for the brokerage to grow, or for the business to rebrand and expand, the commercial real estate division needs to become just that, a division and not the business. And we only need to hire agents and staff who are seasoned, and we can have laissez-faire leadership, not in a whatever maybe will be, but in a way that says we trained our team, we trust our team knows what they're doing, and they'll check in if they have problems. Our systems are clear, our protocols are in place, and this division can run itself. Our new baby, which is our roofing, and our teenager, which is the government contracting division, those are who needs our attention. Our commercial real estate division is an adult. We trust it, we love it. They'll call home to mama if they need it. So that's what it looks like for us, and that's what it's been. It's been. So even with the roofing side, when we start hiring, siblings and multi-generations, but yeah, that's how we got to the point where we said we need. And the other piece of that was, when you're in business for this long, you get to a point where you say, are we building a business to keep or to sell?
There we go.
Right. And so, because when we plateaued, that was the ideal point to say, okay, we can sell it. We have a strong book of business, good systems, revenue. We can sell it here. And we decided we want to keep it. And then if we want to keep it, what does it look like when the next generations don't want to take it on? So we had to restructure, and Sara, this family office center, definitely gave me the language to help me restructure and put things in place for, like HR manuals for family and for non-family, and what that looked like. But yeah, that's how we got here.
Gosh, there are a couple of things that you said that just really stand out.
Yeah, I was
you
about to say the same thing.
Misha?
No, go, Sara. No, because I was about to hit you with your perspective. So I need you to lay it out.
One nugget. We need to think about this as a division and not the whole business. Ooh, the mindset shift is so real. And I know that's just, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 words. But that symbolizes that you have gone from I'm working on this one singular thing to let's look at how all these pieces work together and how can we grow this to bigger than we had ever imagined before. And so the shift, this is merely a division of something larger. That is impactful. Then when you're going through this shift, you made the comment that your staff were no longer aligned with the new mission because you had hired for where you are and not where you're going. Another incredible nugget right here. So
That's
this
it.
idea of when we're hiring, especially when we're small businesses and we're just starting out, we think I need someone who can do X. And so you hire one person and they can do that one thing. But then you need them to also do Y and maybe Z and maybe sometimes X, but a little different. And they don't have those skills. And so it's very important when we're hiring that we remember that people can learn things. We learn things all the time. So maybe you don't have all the skills you need, but you have the right attitude and the right alignment with the mission and the values. And so if you find someone who is passionate about doing the things you're doing and that they have the similar values, they will learn the skills. And it's okay to take the time to train someone if they're a long-term employee. We often think about our customers and our customer acquisition value and our lifetime value of a customer. So I know it costs me $5,000 to acquire a new customer and their lifetime value is 15. So that's a great business model. But what about your employees? What does it cost to acquire an employee? I hired a new employee recently. It took months. Months. I wanted to pull my hair out. It was such a long process. Did I hire the right person? Was it worth that time and that energy?
Very expensive.
It's a tough question.
Yeah,
It's
hiring
very
is
tough.
very, very expensive and we miss the mark most of the time. So I think when Sara said, absolutely, you really scaled, you knew when to make the next step, makes so much sense. Hiring is probably almost at about $10,000 to hire someone. Now you look at when you look at all the pieces to it, how much does Sara make per hour to do these interviews? How much the time does it take and energy to go back and forth? How much does the training gonna cost? Within that first 30 days, you already made a huge investment in that person. And over time, I mean, it's just amazing. But Sara, let's hit on a little bit about how would you put those frameworks together for linking the operational piece for the real estate investment and the family business, the family offices. I want your perspective on that.
So one thing that I really like about the way that your business is structured is that you started with something that you knew and then you grew from there. So you said, here is the real estate business. What can we do next? What's a natural step? And so I often think about when people want to start something new, they like run way over in left field and they try to get involved in something that they've never done. And the learning curve is such that they lose the energy on their main business. And it's this idea of, I had a friend once, and he always would say, if you have two jobs, one of them is always the backup. And it may or may not be your full time, which is a problem, but you can't focus on two things equally all the time. And so by moving into something that's way different, that's an energy drain. It's going to take your concentration and all of your time. But what you did was so smart. You started in one core area and then you pivoted into something that was similar. It was related. So when you were spending time thinking or learning or doing, it would expand into different areas. And then I like the way that you described, we put people in buildings, now we take care of the outside of the buildings. So it's still, yes, it's a little different, but it's still in that same vein. And so by taking the time to do things that are a little different, but still take the same core thought processes, you've not diversified to an extent that you have to risk losing your original business. You've created this way that you are really taking advantage of that synergy. And then when it comes time to pass on the business and your children are involved, or maybe you've got nieces and nephews that want to be involved, they can lead a division without having to lead the whole business. So it gives people the family members, this stepping stone to get more involved, because leading a division is a big deal, but it is excellent practice for leading the entire family enterprise.
I'm glad. So thank you for you threw the target right at me when I want to make sure I get this right. For building a family office, how long does that take? If you want
Really says...
three different verticals, but in the same industry, just based on your experience, how long?
I feel like doing it in 8 years is incredibly quick.
Okay.
I feel like that is moving and shaking.
Okay. All right.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny? Because I thank you for saying that, because I always had up until I think my daughter's almost 3. I had my daughter. I was like, we're just gonna be on her time. I always felt like I was behind. So in my mind, for you to say 8 years, you're the expert. I'll take it.
You had to approach this with such intentionality to have 3 profitable divisions within 8 years. I know business owners that have one singular business. They've been going at it for 8 years, and I don't know that I would consider them truly profitable. You have 3. Yeah, that's quick. I don't have an exact year for you, but I am impressed.
So,
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So with the 8-year, she got an 8-year run now. What should she look for the next 8 years? Because you mentioned plateauing. So where should she model herself and crystallize? What area, based on trends, should Terri really be looking at?
So a couple different things that I would keep in mind as you're growing. Do you like this level of growth? Because one thing that I think is very important, and this is what makes my business mentoring style a little different than what you get in a lot of places, is I want you to do what you want in the best way possible. I don't want to tell you like this is the way, because if it's not what's right for you and your family, then it's not what's right for you and your family. So if you're comfortable with this level of growth, what I would start to look at other streams, other industries that are going to be similar but different. So you're already doing your commercial real estate. Could you expand that a little? So horizontally, or could you expand it vertically, which is kind of what you're doing in your third business where you're working on the building itself. If you're not wanting to continue growing because you might be content at the level that you're at now, I would look and see what your competitors are doing, and more specifically, the ones who have closed, which is a little harder to get data on them, but the ones who have had to go out of business. Why did they go out of business? Explore that, learn from someone else's failures. We don't always have to make the mistake, and avoid those things. So maybe if you're not active in one of these industries, something will happen. Now, I'm not an expert on any one of these industries in particular, but there are norms and trends and data that is available so that you can take a look and say, oh, well, as long as we have a year over year 3% growth rate, we will stay doing just fine. And if that's all you want, that is a-okay. However, if you have decided that this has gotten to be too big, you might want to start looking into which one of these would be the easiest to spin off. And so often when we talk about different divisions, we rank them. So there's this idea of a cash cow. So you put minimal energy into it and you get solid returns. Those are our favorite. Very profitable if you spin off, but oh gosh, it's so little work and it's such good return. Where on the flip side, you have other industry or other divisions that you might have to be putting more work into with fewer returns. And so if you're wanting to downsize your time investment, consider spinning one of those off. So I don't know if I really answered your question, Misha, but what to do next depends ultimately on your goal. Is your goal to grow? Is it to stay the same, or is it to downsize?
Let me
That's
take
really
myself off
good.
mute. That's something really to think about going forward, just because you are, out here in the sky, you just rocket it off. So really to think about continuing to grow. Terri, I have a question.
Yeah.
What is the generational tensions and visions are you encountering now?
Well, that's a great question because I fall in the middle of the the natural decision making order, but in the business, I'm CEO.
Right.
So I think, for example, we have like siblings, and then we have some property. So, and then my husband is a part of the business. So I think with generational tension, it's very important to get to what motivates everyone. And for me as the leader to stay as objective as possible so I can hear them with my heart and not with my ego. Because if I'm hearing
Okay.
them, yeah, because if I'm hearing them objectively and I'm hearing them, minus what I need or I think is the best way to go forward. Like I think having a team or a family in place or generational differences or understanding, all of that knowledge is helpful. Every single piece of data. It just may not be helpful for a singular problem we're trying to solve at the moment. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I think dissecting, AI from generations who don't want to use AI at all ever, and it's like, what is Google, right? To to people who use it to pull up tonight's recipe, right?
Right.
So there's big differences. There's big differences with that, but I think just dissecting the information, figuring out what motivates folks, and data banking any little nuggets so that people feel heard and we can apply what this generation said is going to get us to this next level. And I think the older generations are very good with process, right? Because process is timeless, process is evergreen. But the younger generations are very good with taking risks and marketing and being like people's people. So being like building those relationships and exploring, whereas older generations might be a little bit more closed off, but they know how to make the thing work. So that it's just bridging that gap for me. And I like what Sara said earlier when you mentioned not straying so far from what we already do and adding the government contracting and the roofing, because commercial real estate is very nuanced. You can work with an owner who wants to sell. Sellers have their own reasons. Landlords have their own reasons, right? Or property management aspect of it. So it's very nuanced. It's very hands-on all the time versus roofing. While they're related, roofing is cut and dry. It's, do you want a roof? Do you need a roof? Can I bid on it or no? Like that's it. So okay. having one division where it's nuanced, it's a lot of relationship, it's a lot of knowing what's going on in the market or politically, because commercial real estate is very much so tied to politics and spending. Versus roofing is you have a leak, you had a disaster, you need it or you don't. So having one division that is how we get the job done is also very helpful to put the right generation on the right assets,
That's what I
right?
was
On the
gonna
right
ask
division.
Sarah.
Yes.
That's what I was gonna. That's where I was going.
So,
I was
yes.
Sarah. Come on, because that generational piece is
Yes,
a little difficult in human resources. So
correct.
I really want you to talk about with family offices. I got my Aunt Judy that do not want me to say, hey, what's up to her. And then I got my young, young Karen, whatever, my young baby, and he's like, I'm not saying ma'am. Like,
No.
I'm not doing that. That's in the human resource space of the intergenerational issues. With Terri being in the middle of her family office business, can you give us either some type of example maybe that you've seen where Terri sits in the middle of the business, and how does she continue to flourish with the family offices around her?
So what I think is so interesting, and this is a very common dynamic that we talk about, is that your position in the business so often does not align with your position in the family. And so when we think about, if you go home for the family reunion or whatever holiday you're celebrating, there is someone in charge. There is a person.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the great grandmother, it may be the auntie, like whoever it may be. I guess it could be a man, it could be the grandfather. Um, in my
Yeah.
house, we it's always a woman. And so that person is in charge of everything household. But in the business, it may not be that same person. And often the person who leads the business still has to show that level of respect in the family setting. And so a framework that I think is really helpful is to think about what room are we sitting in. And so I'm going to offer you 4 different rooms. So instead of taking on hats, we're moving around a house. And when you're in different rooms, you react and you interact differently. So you have your family room, and that's where y'all are just a family, Let's not worry about the business. We just love each other for who we are. You can have the owner's room, and so that is the people who own the business. You have the manager's room, so people who are managing within the business, and then you have the employees. So they don't have any particular responsibility for ownership or for management, but they're still working in there. And so you could have family members in all of those positions. So think of you just hired your little cousin because he's in from college and he's going to do something over the summer, employee. But when you're at home, he's in the family room. You might have someone that's in their 30s and they're not yet an owner, but they are managing. And so someone like Terri is going to bop in and out of all of those rooms, and she's going to have very different conversations in those rooms. So when she's talking to an employee, she's the boss. And there are certain dynamics that have to happen. So we might see some yes ma'ams if that is the norm in your business. You move into the manager room and you're going to start asking questions on productivity and outcomes and metrics. You move into the owner's box and you're going to start, or owner's room, you're going to start asking questions of what is our profitability? Is the ROI on this new project? You move into the family room and you're going to ask what's for dinner? Where are we going on vacation? And so when we see these intergenerational dynamics, ask yourself, is this the conversation for this room? If you are not an owner in my business, we do not have conversations in the owner room with you. I will talk to you in the family room.
Okay, I like that. Now, that was definitely a great way to look at it. I'm taking that back with me and my family, and and at the family reunion that we have for our board meeting. We are setting the mansion up just like that. This is where we talk business.
Boardrooms.
This is where we talk this, and don't make me put you in the pool. So so I want to keep on going with that. Terri, have you got to that mastery level yet?
No.
Because it
No.
comes with, right? So when we think about that, and my whole new thing is if you don't measure it, you can't master it.
Correct.
So it's so amazing that, we're collecting data, and how do we collect data off of ourselves? Because that emotional, intelligent, and behavior that we have, how do we stretch ourselves that wide? So that's what I'm kind of just thinking, like, okay, so Terri, what are you thinking about over the next 3 years for the company? Are you going to just stay where you are for a little? Are you thinking about doing something else?
So for us, we really want to get our AA certification, which is a federal certification that you can have for about 8 years or so. That can give you a lot of sole source, meaning, if you're AA, you have exclusivity to bid on a certain kinds of government contracts. And we really want to grow that division, because with government contracting, it offers us more opportunities to team and partner with businesses outside of ours, without having to give up any ownership in our business. And so that's very important, is maintaining 100% ownership
You
for
just
us.
hit it.
Yeah.
That's it right there. Hold up. We're going to stop right there. Because the ownership and equity, we're going to have to talk about that. Maybe not tonight, but I really want to talk about that table of ownership. I really want to talk about that a little bit, Sara, tonight, but really go to a deeper dive of the equities that you're putting in and how that is built in the beginning, right? In the beginning, how is it built? And then, Terri, what kind of ownership issues do you might have, or you might call Sara and say, I don't want to have these problems. What these problems? So, that's setting the stage of why we're really here. Okay. We want to make sure we don't have them problems. We call Sara, we don't want to have these problems.
Yeah.
And this business is here, and this is where I want to go. Or maybe I just, like you said, just stop right here and really reflect. Is that about a year, Sara? Like that, when you grow so fast, do you have a reflection year or two?
I think it's a great idea to have a reflection year. We can get so caught up in doing more, doing more, doing more that we forget, why are we doing this to begin with? Is this still aligned with who I want to be and what I want my business to be? So one of the things I like to present business owners with, I love a framework, and this one's a triangle, and you take a moment to reflect on what you actually want out of the business. So you can have ownership, which you all said, number one, most family businesses do agree. You can have, ownership in the form of control. So you can have control, you can have liquidity, or you can have growth. And so I don't know if y'all have been to like the mechanic and they have a little triangle and they say you can have it done good, you can have it done fast, you can have it done cheap, you can have two, but you can't have all three. It's the same thing. So you can have it done good and fast, but it's not going to be cheap. So with this, you can have control, you can have growth, or you can have liquidity. You can have two, but you can't have all three. And so what most family businesses choose is that they want growth and they want control. They're keeping ownership. And so what that means you're sacrificing is liquidity. So you're not going to have a private investor come in so that you can grow faster, because that's diluting your control. And so I think it's a great time to step back and ask, is that still what I want? We grew. And we had to keep growing because the family keeps growing. So over generations, the business has to provide for more. We have control so that we're seeing the benefits of that in the long term. And I'm not saying that you're not splurging a little bit here and there and buying something a little nicer than you really needed on the business card, but you're not just fronting a lifestyle. You're truly growing a business. Is that still what you want? And if it is, great. And if it's not, that's okay too.
I like it. What if I don't want control anymore? Like I'm trying to figure out, I'm tired. I don't want this much control, right? And I'm just always trying to bring scenarios in, because for me, that's how I kind of learn. Like, when do you say, like, now I know I don't want full control, right? I'm there. I don't want full control. What's the checklist?
I don't know if there's a set checklist, but I think you're going to feel it. And then I'm going to ask the question of, do you no longer want control over the direction of the business? I bet you still want that. I bet you still want that. Or do you no longer want control of the day-to-day decision making?
I don't want either one.
Are you ready to cash out?
I don't want to cash out. That's where we can talk about cat. Yeah, we can talk about that because I think that's where we're at in talking about family offices. She wants to continue, and I'm like, I want to start something completely different. I'm gonna jump off of my own soapbox and go back to Terri. So Terri, I want you to kind of, what are you envisioning? Like, I want to know your vision. Like, what's the 5-year plan, baby? What's the plan? Like, are you giving this to the baby? Are you giving this to your cousin? Like, what's the plan?
Yes. So, and I eventually, will we give it to the baby? Absolutely. Ideally, she'll be one of those people in House Hunters, like, I'm an art teacher and my budget is $15 million. We're just trying to figure out why her, how, right? So I want her to be able to do whatever it is she wants. And ideally, the cousins and the younger generation, if they want to work in the business or VPs or run a division, they most certainly can. If they don't, they can be a solid board of trustees, making decisions together and hiring experts and people who can manage the different divisions and manage the money and help the money to continue to grow itself so they never have to worry about it. So that's the down the road goal. But in the next 5 years, I imagine that we'll probably open our be general contractors, right? So we'll have a full-on construction arm and be able to offer products outside of just exterior. So we do roofing, siding, gutters, downspouts, and windows. So being able to offer different services like tree cutting or anything, everything. I like, you can't tell, I'm a jewelry and makeup girl. So in my property, I like everything beautiful too, beautification. So landscaping, interior design, paint, things like that. Probably not building and developing because that turns it to being a dynamic thing instead of a static thing, which was what we like about construction. So not getting into too much development, but certainly investing in more shopping centers, right? And maintaining our own properties. So in the next 5 years, our goal is to own at least 5 senior home facilities. And then we like to own a few shopping centers and go into some investor deals. And then on the construction side, have a full service construction arm for all exteriors. And then, be making a lot of money in
I like
government
the construction
contracting.
idea. I like the
Yes.
construction piece. I like
Yes.
the construction piece. I'm not sure we were going with the senior living, but I'm gonna leave
Oh,
that.
well, just as like
I'm
a
gonna leave that
personal
on the
investment.
table. But I like
Yeah,
the
well,
construction
look.
piece. I like that. I like that.
Yes.
I like that one.
Yes.
I definitely I see that on the table. I see that what you already had, the
Mhm.
construction would really bloom, right?
Yes.
So Sarah, what do
I
you
think
think
this
about? Yeah, you know
Yeah,
I was
I think
going.
this is so interesting, especially kind of Misha, where you're like, oh, do I want to continue doing this forever? Terri obviously is living her life right now, but will
Right.
she be tired in 10 years? Maybe. And
Maybe.
the baby is a baby and will not be ready to take over in 10 years. They won't even be like, they're just not ready. So, what do we do in the interim? Like,
Right.
you're moving and shaking and doing and being. How do we get from one generation to the next, especially as time between generations expands? And so, I want to share a story about the Kirk Christensen family who grew up with Legos, like all of us, right? We played with the little toys when we were kids, and that's a family business. A lot of people don't know that. And so they were doing fine, but they kind of tapped out with the skill set that they had in their family. So they chose to hire a non-family CEO, which I think is a great alternative if your family doesn't want to take an active role in the business, but you don't want to lose that that revenue generator for your family office. And so they brought in a non-family CEO, and whoo, they must have been related to you, Terri, because they were moving and they were shaking. And that is when we started seeing the Lego brand deals, and we get all the Lego sets that are like Star Wars related. And you see the Lego movies, and I think there's like a million of those now. And so they took Lego from a household name to this monstrous enterprise, but they kept the business in the family. And so the family still maintains control because they own it. So if they wanted to do something, they have that right to, but they no longer are dealing with the day to day or even the quarter to quarter decision making. And so when I'm hearing all of these great things that you're doing, Terri, and then I'm also hearing Misha, you're talking about what's next for me. Well, obviously you're too young to just retire and sit on a beach all day. Like that's your brain would get bored. So what do
Right.
we do in the interim, and how do we ensure that our family is still cared for while we're doing something different? And so that's where our family office comes in. So you have the office that owns all of these different divisions, Terri, and then you have your board of trustees that are involved with the family office, and you have grown something so magical that when your little cousin says, "Hey, I want to start a business," they can take a loan from the family office, and the family office might give them seed money with an equity exchange. They might just, "Hey, everybody gets X thousand dollars to start a business." It can look different from family to family, but it's this way to go to the next level without having to work until you no longer can physically work anymore.
Like that. I like that. I mean, Terri, if you are throwing out gems, I want to put out in the audience. Anybody wants to really just chime in, because I want this to be a little bit more relaxed, guys. I really do. So if anybody wants to chime in about their business or put their business out there, you never know who's on the phone. Always never assume who's in the room. So you never know who's on the phone. But if you want to put out there your business, you're looking for a business, you're starting a business, you're thinking about, the generational handout, say something, guys, at any time. We really want to make sure everybody is impactful. We bring
Mhm.
something to everyone, no matter if it's a family business, just just starting a business. Let me say this. You're going to need the mentors and all the advisors and everything to do it properly. Because you don't want to do it and throw spaghetti on the wall like most of us. And we'll just keep on going. We want to catch you right now before it's like a chain effect, which is why we're here. But
And Misha, and I want to chime in on what you just said about mentorship. And I mentioned a little bit earlier, I felt like I started late because I always knew I wanted to do something grand. And then when it finally clicked, I was a little bit older, right? Like I wasn't 19 or even 25. So to cut down on that learning curve and to get to jump orbits, if you will, mentorship has been impeccable for me. So any advice I can give to you guys is please don't be afraid to message that person on LinkedIn. Everyone won't respond. Some people won't have the time to meet in person. And one of the things that I like to ask, okay, no problem, you can't meet in person. What are 3 books you think I should read to help me reach my goal?
next 5 moves. Next 5
Everyone
moves.
will give you, yes, everyone will give you a book recommendation. That was like 1 for 1. And yeah, so you get your book recommendations, and anytime you can, like some things like this, like the gems that Misha and Sara are giving us today, as far as like, I know I'm the speaker here today, but even just to grow and think about the next 5 years, any opportunities for mentorship, take it, grab it. I have 1,000 mentors.
Yeah, I do too, in a lot of different areas. So this is definitely one of the areas I've been really sitting back learning. But Sara, So I want to keep on going and make sure that we keep talking about Terri just a little bit. And I don't have any takers out here to say nothing. Nonprofit profit, you're not selling, y'all. Whoever you're not selling, I'm gonna sell. I'm gonna sell. Let you know.
All
Misha
right,
Ford,
I'll
we
sell.
out. There
I'll
we go.
sell. If y'all are looking for a mentor, we have a Now Gen Leaders peer group. And we have one that is in person, but if I have enough takers, and the number is 6, if I have enough takers, we're going to start a virtual group. And so what that looks like is you spend 2 hours once a month with me and a handful of other business leaders, and you work through your problems. It is mentorship that is part of the membership of the Family Enterprise Center, and we would love to have you.
That was easy.
Yes, I would love to join. I'm sorry. This is Shan Burris. And then I also did have a question. So I'm new into real estate. I have one commercial property. It's a 3-unit in Louisiana, and I'm looking to continue to expand in different areas. So my question is, for Terri, how would you recommend you actually structuring your business, right? I know as you first start off, I think the most common is probably an LLC, but thinking about growing and expanding, what business structures would you recommend? And then, of course, how would you get there? Like any lawyers or, trust and this kind of the back end office components.
So you're owner operator, or are you a real estate agent?
I'm the owner operator. So
You're owner operator. And what is your goal is to buy more commercial property in your area, or are you looking to go in on deals with other people in different areas? Like, what does the first set of goals look like for
goals.
you?
Yeah, so my goal is actually to continue not only just to buy commercial properties, but also on the residential side in terms of a cash cow. I know, Sarah, you mentioned that earlier, maybe looking also to get into the mobile home industry to do some quick flipping. So really want to vertically integrate my business. Also looking to get my GC license, so taking classes to expand on that network. So really trying to build some of the skills to really grow it in all aspects. So similar to what you're doing in a sense, but not on the real estate or the broker side.
Yeah, okay, that helps me. So I'm not a business advisor, but I can tell you what I see, and I can tell you what we are going to do for our family. So what I see a lot is when people have different properties, they have an LLC for every property. So it'd be 123 Main Street, 456 Fairmont Road, what have you. And all of those properties are under a trust, right? And the people are beneficiaries. So you, Shan, would be a beneficiary of the trust. Now, it does take attorneys, business attorneys, real estate attorneys, CPAs, right? You have to build a team of people and experts that you trust. And there's a lot of time, and there are some expenses on the front end of that. But I totally think that it's worth it to do it, to know that you're protected and your assets are protected, because things come up. You're in business, people get sued, right? People slip, people fall, tenants don't pay rent, right? Like there's just very real things that happen. For me, I will probably, outside of like personal places where I live, or maybe my kids will buy them homes for college, I'll always and almost exclusively invest in commercial real estate, because it's all of the asset classes are useful, and there's a lot of incentive to do that. So and I would start in areas, if you're saying, okay, I want to buy more properties, I would start in areas that like the back of your hand, because politics, the economics, get very familiar with your Department of Transportation to know where they're building parks, where they're building highways, where they're demolishing places, right? Where is the Department of Transportation going, right? Go to those school board meetings. Where are they building new schools, right? Where are they renovating the schools, right? Because all of those pieces add value and attract people and protect your commercial real estate asset. And if I don't know if you're doing multifamily or shopping centers or office, what have you, either way, understand your asset class and why the businesses will lease from you. So if you have office, why does an office user want to come to Shan? Buy in those places. Is it by a highway? Is it by daycares where it makes it convenient for people to run their errands, right? Are things like, is it on the go to work or go home side of the street? So stuff like that. So that's what we are going to do for our family, and what a lot of my clients do, and seems to be the most successful model that I've seen.
Nice, for
Does
sure.
that answer your question?
It does. It gives me a lot of
Okay.
information.
Yes, and then expand out from there. But areas that or if you have partners that they know like the back of their hand, because commercial real estate can get tricky.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you guys. And then I'll also be connecting with Dr. Misha and Dr. Sarah. So thank you.
Great question.
Definitely a great question. Glad you asked the question because I want you to throw out your pitch for me, but I love bravery. Look at us. You see, I want you to throw out your pitch, girl. I want to hear what you do all the way around the board. Just give me a minute. Throw it out.
Yeah. No, so currently I'm an IT strategy consultant. So I specifically focus on enterprise operating models or IT operating models and enterprise agility for Fortune 500 companies. But like I said, I am pivoting into real estate. So taking classes at ATC to build my knowledge and skill in the industry to eventually go full time into real estate entrepreneurship. Really want to get into the develop and build space as well. So yeah. Looking happy with all the advice and support. So
amazing. See how
Yeah.
easy that was? Like literally what you're building right now is you're an entrepreneur. And I believe in it. And then you take their whole Bible and you take it with you and you build it as an entrepreneur. To me, that's it's definitely a safer space than just throwing spaghetti on the wall, which you'll hear me say a lot. But
Yeah.
thank you.
And for you, Shan, it's going to be also really important to research the different fee structures and ways of getting crowdsourcing fundraising.
Yeah.
Because I think you would probably benefit from like being a manager of the funds and fundraising. So that's another good way instead of using your own money right away out of the gate.
Right, for sure. Thank you. I'll look into that.
Have another question. Go ahead. Come off of mute. Thank you.
Hello, thank you so much. This is a lovely session. I am currently going through a pivot in my career, and I think this is all very helpful information for me. I do have a question for Terri King specifically. Oh, Dr. King, I have to ask you, what do you think was like the turning point for you? Like, when did you think you realized that this could go from like just like a business to being like legacy?
Oh, so that's a great question. Thank you for that. So the first little bump when I knew I was ready to go from being a single agent to being a broker and starting to hire my family and build out the family enterprise. The first bump is when I was pregnant and I had a high risk pregnancy and I couldn't work for a while. And I was like feeling guilty about it, but I said, you know what? It's important for me to live and my baby to live. So, but that ended up being the best income year of the business to that point to date, because I got really good at saying no. I got really good at vetting who we were working with. So the motto came out, I only work with people who are motivated and on things that make sense. And it was cut and dry. And I was like, whoa, so I can step away from my business and still be profitable. I didn't know. I didn't know. So that was a turning point. And when we got really good at systems, and then the adding on the roofing and adding on the government contracting piece, that was really thinking about how do we sustain? How do companies like mine, right? So I looked at my competitors. At the time it was just commercial real estate. So I looked at my competitors like JLL or CBRE or, every big company where I can get my hands on their annual reports, right? How are they making money? That's what I wanted to know. And I found out more than half of their revenue comes from government contracting. Some is to the tune of about 80%. So what that told me is the leasing of commercial real estate and sales or site selection, and these are huge companies. So those are millions or millions, and some companies billions of dollars, just that 20% of commercial real estate. But what that told me was it's really just a loss leader for them. That's how they keep their name out there, like McDonald's, right? We don't drive past McDonald's, but they still advertise other places to keep their name out there. For my competitors, that's what the real estate was for them, because you see it on signs, you see it on every shopping center you go into. They sponsor different types of events for real estate, but they're really doing government contracting. They're doing plumbing, electrical work. Do accounting work. They have IT departments. They do energy advisory services like EV charging stations and batteries. And I said, well, hey, 100% of my business is commercial real estate, and they didn't even stay there. So in order to become competitive, there's already these blueprints in place that I found from my bigger competitors. So that's when I started to add in the roofing and the government contracting, because that blueprint works. These companies have been around for over half a century. And I said, well, why not me? Why not my family? Why not now?
Very nice. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the question.
All right, Sarah. We have 2 minutes. Do anyone else want to speak? Have a question? Vaughn, you got a question?
I just have a question about, just really want to talk about, for those of us that have been operating more in the commercial corporate space. So I come from operations, and I've so been, I guess, an entrepreneur. I've had multiple ventures and businesses, and now that I'm getting a little older, I'm ready to sort of go out on my own and do my own thing. But Dr. King is a lot more brave. I like to say like that.
Yes, yes, she is.
And so I think my hesitation has always been, and I've been burnt by family. And so one of the reasons that, where, the quote unquote family business has just been me and my spouse. And so I've been hesitant to include family because it's been really bad experiences in the past for the 2 businesses that we've had. And so how do you sort of overcome those challenges, and what are some of the things you can do to work on as you get prepared, as I'm preparing myself in the next sort of 3 to 5 years as I move out of corporate America and want to take the knowledge I have and try to set up myself and my family like, she's doing, because that's what I'm most scared about. I want to help. I want to involve them, but I already see they don't have the skills. I'm just very much a type A personality. And so I tend to want to keep everything very close.
Yes.
And so I think,
I want Sarah to answer, but I'm with you on that. I had that problem. I definitely
I'm very much, I'm struggling with that a lot.
I see a couple ways forward. You can't get new family, like that one's out. So moving beyond that, you can either, this is a tough one. This is the therapy speaking. Acknowledge that the only thing you have control of is you and your reaction to others. You can't control how others behave. So you have acknowledged that you're a type A person, and so you can work through that and try and find a way to help shape them, help advance them. But is that worth your energy is my big question I'm going to ask. Because if you have a pattern of behavior that you have experienced with them, do you want to put the energy in that? So option 1, train them, try and train them. There's going to be some resistance, and that's a tough one. Family makes sense that you would want to work with them for a lot of economic reasons, but if they're not the right fit, they're not the right fit. My
That's
option
it.
two, you still want them to be involved in some other way. Can you grow something like Terri has done in 8 years, which is just an insane feat? But can you grow something to the level in which they can benefit without having to contribute? So perhaps the proceeds from the business, from the owner room, if you will, if we go back to those 4 rooms, helps to fund things that are happening in the family room. So the family does benefit, but they don't make decisions in the business.
That's a good way to think about it. Thank you. Yeah.
I like that, Sarah. I like that. I have hired everyone in my family and have fired everyone in my family.
Yeah, that's
And and it's emotional. It's an emotional process, and it pull you apart and put you back together and pull you apart again. And then you realize I cannot continue to do this because it becomes a cycle. And I'm
right.
just off experience, honestly. It just becomes a cycle of you don't want to fail, but you're not scared. I'm gonna say this, you can't say you're scared. You're not scared. You've been working commercial corporate for this long, however long that is. You pick that up and you take it with you. Now you can do, if you could do part-time a little bit just to get your feet wet, because you're gonna need the investment. Like Terri said, you're gonna need a lawyer, a CPA, somebody to build a business plan, a great advisor like Sara. You're gonna need those. You're gonna need. I call them, those are my people. That's my circle. That's going to be
Right.
your immediate circle. Immediate circle. Like if you see me, you see my CPA. If you see me, you see my attorney. Because most of the time, that's we trying to figure something out. And
Right.
then when it comes to your family, and that's what we were talking about earlier, and I like the room setting that Sara put together because it's very hard to separate. Me and my daughter, and I'm just being transparent, we have that issue of separation because I'm always boom, boom, boom. And now we've grown to have separate conversations and make it a owner room, family room. Okay, this is, you're running this, I'm running this, and get out each other way. And then my other daughter, I know she's like, yeah, I'm out. I'm not doing this. Cool. Right. So, but you gotta really have that conversation. And I think, what is it, the roots and legacy class, or what, I think these kind of resources will really help us because it's emotional. This is an emotional roller coaster. Like every single day, you don't know what you're gonna get because what you're treating one of your cousins well better than this person, and you closer than this. Like, Sara, how do we supposed to deal with these type of things? Because that's how the breakdown of a family happens.
Right. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, this was great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. But Sara, I want you to get us out of here. Tell us what to do, where are we going?
All right. Well, moving forward, if you are interested in joining one of our peer groups, if I've got 6 people, I'll start a virtual one and we'll meet once a month. If you are interested in learning a little bit more about AI, or maybe how you can grow your business, how you can navigate your family dynamics, hit me up. We have programming, both virtual and in person. We would love to have you in to just experience what it's like to be part of a group that was built for you as a family business owner. So kind of to wrap up, Terri, thank you for sharing your incredible story. This was phenomenal. I loved hearing how rapidly you have developed just an incredible enterprise. And Misha, thank you for always being such a great moderator. And to everyone else in the room, thank you for joining in on the conversation.
Thank you so much. This was a great time. Thank you everyone for joining.